I'm going to record it to the computer. Okay, we're recording.
Yay!
Yay!
Hi, Bri. How are you today?
Hi, good. I'm well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm so glad we managed to make this happen finally.
Yeah.
Where are you in the world?
I am in Minneapolis right now. Just got back from Denver and on my way to Los Angeles again.
Fantastic. So would you like to tell everybody what it is that you actually do, just so we all know?
Yeah, so I am a coach, an author, and a speaker. I'm particularly passionate about helping people find their own path in life. Kind of very similar to your, everyone has their own kind of like thing. One size fits one. I definitely believe that. I don't believe that there is a way or a formula. My job as a coach is to help people look within and find their own way, because there's a lot of stuff out there that tells us that there's only one way to success. And I just frankly don't believe that. And so I help empower people to find themselves, to find their source of joy and of power and of passion, and really help them create lives around that.
Wow, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And I've just had the pleasure of reading your book. I've read it and I've actually listened to the audio as well, because I love listening to audios when I'm in the car.
Oh, wow.
Big book, Permission to Lead. Tell everybody about that.
So it came to me last year, and wrote almost the entire thing through meditation. It's really about helping people take that leap of faith, because going from the prescribed path to your path is oftentimes a really scary thing, because there's a lot tied up in what society tells us is acceptable and is right, and the way to make money and the way to survive and all of those things. And when you start walking your own path, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of determination, and it takes a big leap of faith. And so what I found when I was writing it last year, looking back over decades of experience counseling and coaching and studies of psychology and science, is that people have a really hard time with that, because it's easier to grasp on to something that you know,
Yeah.
even if it's something you don't want,
Yeah.
than it is to venture out into the quote unquote unknown to create your own path. And so Permission to Leap was written to help give people tools, give people science, give people perspective shifts, to help them realize and understand that your unique path has more wealth, more joy, more passion, more everything than the path of should, is what I call it, will ever have.
Yeah, I love that, the path of should. Yeah, I think a lot of us, and me included, I've got so much from that book, because it's the right time for me in my life. I know I've got a massive leap to make, and I am making all sorts of excuses at the moment not to take it, really, which is what most of us do, isn't it?
Well, and it's so interesting too, because it's not that you're making excuses, it's that our brains are conditioned to talk us out of things that are outside our comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so it's really literally just like a biological issue that we as humans have. It is something that when we were cavemen, we needed it, because it was literally life or death. Now it is not life or death for us to do something outside our comfort zone, but our brain is still programmed as if it were life or death. So I always say that back when we were cavemen, if you had a saber-toothed tiger chasing you, your brain goes through the same fight or flight mechanism as it does today when you think about doing something outside your comfort zone. So even though we've evolved as a species, we really haven't at all. And we're still responding like we're being chased by saber-toothed tigers every single day.
Yeah, yeah. And part of that is like this rush of cortisol that we all have running around our bodies from actually being so busy all the time. And I love that video you did last week on using the word busy, because everybody says, oh, I'm so busy. And you have this long list of things to do. And actually, I know part of your journey is similar to mine, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But you sometimes just need to hold space and actually find out what's going on inside you. And so then you're able to move forward without that busyness inside, which creates so much chaos, doesn't it, really?
Well, for me, creating space in my life every day helps me take action that's more purposeful. Yeah. And so I get to say no a lot to a lot of different things. Yeah. In fact, I've already sent out 2 emails this morning saying no to things because they're not aligned for me, versus the people who are busy are simply saying yes to everything, or things that aren't aligned, or things they don't want to do, simply because a lot of people are really uncomfortable. If they look at their calendar and their day is blank and empty, they don't know what to do with that. I used to have that same thing where I would look at my calendar for a week and be like, oh, I have nothing going on this week. How exciting. And I'm a total homebody. So I'm like, I love when nothing's going on. But then all of a sudden I would look at my calendar a day later and every minute of every day would be filled up. And I'm like, how did this even happen? Yeah. And now I just got back from Denver. I had a volunteer shift last night, a speaking engagement tonight. My boyfriend and I have plans tomorrow night. Friday night, I go to hip hop. Saturday, I see my parents and have a soccer game, like all these things. And I was looking at my calendar this week being like, what can I cancel? What can I cancel? I have too many things going on. I need more space in my life. This isn't okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really isn't okay. I mean, it's not good for the inside of you at all, is it? So can we just talk about I know you mentioned in your book about your inner practice, and that's obviously how you create the space for yourself. Can you just tell us what it is you do actually to start your day do you start your day with your inner practice?
Yeah, I do. I'm a total morning person, and my cats insist upon being fed at 6 a.m. So it's not like I can even sleep in. So I get up at 6 a.m. and my laptop doesn't even come on until 9 a.m. And it's a really hard and fast rule. I used to be really good at also not going to my phone before 9 a.m. That fell off about a year ago, and I just haven't prioritized getting back into that habit yet. But that is basically just my time. And it's my time. This morning, I meditated. I actually did 2 meditations this morning. I love drinking tea, so I make my tea every morning. It's also my space, right? It's also my space to like get some stuff done in the morning. So I'll do the dishes, or I'll take a walk, or it really depends on the morning. Some mornings I'll take baths. Some mornings I'll color. Most mornings I journal. I just started using Heath's journal. He sent it to me right when it came out, and it was sitting on my bookcase forever. But so I do all sorts of stuff. That's usually when my content ideas come to me for podcasts and for newsletters and all of those things, and next moves to take with my business. And that's when usually the really big juicy nuggets pop in for me. And so it's really important for me to keep that spaciousness. Some mornings I'll play music, but a lot of mornings it's like solfeggio tones, which are just kind of really mundane, unobtrusive tones. But regardless of what I do, the whole point and purpose of it is to have that space where I'm just connecting with myself. I'm connecting with my body. I'm connecting with the higher power, and just really being in that openness, because that's where the universe is going to be able to pop in and communicate with me. If I'm busy all day, every day, the universe, I'm not going to hear the universe when it talks to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're easing yourself gradually into the morning with all this lovely stuff going on. It sounds fabulous. And just you and your cats.
Usually.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And has it always been that way for you, though? Because I know you've actually changed careers, haven't you? You started off in fashion, is that right?
Yep. I have 2 degrees in fashion design, and that was kind of the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. At the same time, I had a day job. So for all 8 years that I had my fashion business, I had a day job at the same time. I was actually a vocational rehabilitation counselor, which is funny because I didn't realize up until really this year how much that job like prepped and primed me to become a coach now, which is a little funny because I hated every day of that job. I hated it so much.
Can you explain what that job actually entailed? I've not heard of that before.
Yep. So I don't know if England has a workers' compensation system. So if you're injured on the job in America,
Yeah.
You get to enroll, it's a terrible system, but you basically get enrolled in the workers' compensation system, wherein they provide you wage loss compensation. And then my job as a vocational counselor was to determine if people were physically capable of returning to work, whether it be in the job that they were in, whether their employer had a light duty kind of job to return them to, if they had skills from a previous job that they could reapply in a more physically appropriate manner. And if all of those were negative, then we'd look at retraining them. So I had, I think my two biggest success stories while I was there were two different electricians. One was a woman who was a little older, one was a guy who was about 30, and they could not go back to being electricians. And that had been their entire work history. And I got the opportunity to work with them to figure out what was next for them. And the state covered their tuition, paid them wage loss during the entire thing. The woman went on to become an accountant. And she found me online last year. I think it's been 10 years since I worked with her. She found me online and was like, "You changed my life. You were the highlight of the entire workers' comp process for me. This is what I'm doing now, and I wouldn't be here without you." And then the other guy found me on LinkedIn a few years ago as well, and basically said the same thing. He trained to become a computer-aided drafter and is now living out west, just loving what he's doing. He relocated and is really enjoying his life. And it's funny how many similarities, as much as I hated that job, how many similarities between that job and what I'm doing now. I think the major difference is most of those people had experienced an injury that was not controllable and not elective, whereas the people I'm working with now obviously come to me because they want that change, they want that transformation.
Yes, yeah, but it's a similar role in that you're very much helping people to transform. But that sounds a fantastic job. And then you were doing your fashion in the evening, is that right?
Yeah, that job was really flexible. It was great. When I first started, it was, evenings and weekends. But once I got certified as an actual counselor, I was able to cut down to 4/10s. And then my employers loved me. So as long as I got my job done, I cut down to 3/11s. So I was only working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I cut down to like 4/7s. And then from there, I think I went down to like, there you are. From there, I think I went down to like 10 hours a week or something. So I was very lucky in that I kind of like weaned myself out of that job while I was building my fashion job.
Okay. And the fashion job, how long did you enjoy it? Or because you didn't do it for that long then, or did you?
Yeah, so I graduated with my master's in 2006 in fashion design and came back to the States and immediately got a job doing costume design, which I realized was not what I wanted to do at all. And about 6 months later, started my own brand. So I started my own fashion brand in 2007, and I closed my fashion brand in 2015. So it was about 8 years that I had my own label.
Wow, wow. So you have been busy in the past.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm very ambitious, and when I get a vision ahead of me, I work to make it happen. And, for me, even last year, my book came to me in meditation in January, and it launched November 14th. Like 10 months, I just had the idea and I wrote a book and launched it. And that's just kind of my MO. I'm really good at trusting when I have a vision, which I think is a major sticking point for a lot of people, because I just gave a speech this weekend at a women's expo, and I talked about, which are you trusting more? Are you trusting your vision, your eyesight vision, or are you trusting your vision, the vision you can't see that's within you? Because there's a difference. And so many of us are conditioned to only trust our eyesight vision. And if you're only trusting your eyesight vision, you are incredibly limited as to what is possible for you. And for me, I don't know where it came from or how it developed, but I've always trusted my inner vision more than my eyesight vision.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge for a lot of people. Most people are here, aren't they, most of the time, and not in their heart and not in their gut. And that's kind of where you feel rather than think.
Right.
And that's it's more important to feel than it is to think a lot of the time, but it's actually having the ability to access it. And I think from what you were saying about the being busy, that's when it stops it. When you're busy, you're up here and you're not in your head and your heart, you're not in your heart and your gut. For me, it's like very much a gut thing. I get a lot of feelings in my gut, and I know that kind of directs me rather than my head. But talking about the gut, can we talk about the wonderful man who did the foreword to your book?
Yes.
Told me about when we spoke last week, Naveen Jain. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So I watched a couple of the videos when you mentioned his name, because obviously I've had gut issues in the past. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this series of Zoom chats, really, because it is very much one size fits one. And just to find out how other people live a healthy lifestyle. And Naveen Jain absolutely blew me away with the talk of the biome and the gut microbiome and how he tests it. And that, again, is individuality, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that drew me to Naveen in the first place, because I saw him speak at an event in 2017. No, I saw him speak at an event in 2017, and I reached out to him shortly after just to be like, loved your speech. Thanks so much. Hopefully we get a chance to meet in person again someday. We didn't meet in person at that event. I said, hopefully we get a chance to meet in person someday. And he responded back to me and said, well, let's get on the phone. How can I help you? Which blew me away, because this guy's like amazing. And I was like, how do you have time for, little old me? But we had a phone call, and then I actually wrote my book in Seattle, which is near where he lives. And while I was writing my book, I went to see him twice. And the thing I love about Naveen is that he gets it, in that one of his major things, and especially that he wrote in my book, was when you believe something is impossible, that thing instantaneously becomes impossible, but only for you.
Yeah.
For no one else in the world, but only for you.
Yeah.
And most people would look at him. So he has a goal of wanting to make chronic illness optional.
Yeah.
Imagine living in a world where diabetes was an option.
Yeah.
Where Alzheimer's was an option.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we look at those things as, well, we can't really control them, so we might as well learn to live with them. Like, they're just facts of life.
Yeah.
What if they weren't facts of life? And that's what I love about Naveen, is that he's finding ways of addressing each person's individual microbiome in their gut and giving them the tools they need to be their optimal health, not based on a generic food chart, not based on that terrible food pyramid that was like such a politically motivated like BS, but literally based on your exact chemistry in your body, which our bodies are as unique as our thumbprints. I don't know why we think that our thumbprints are the only thing that are one of a kind about us.
I know, crazy.
Yeah, every single body functions in a different way, which is why it always kills me when people are like, oh, tell me what your diet is. Tell me what your morning routine is. Tell me what, and I'm always like, this is what works for me.
Yeah.
You have to take it and do your own spin on it. But I know what works for me.
Yeah.
And Naveen has really, really built this great business and this great science, this great technology behind helping people do that on a diet level, which I really think is the first. I've done a few other of those biome tests, but they're not as in-depth as Viome is.
Yeah. I've had so many gut tests and had so many options to try different diets and all that kind of thing based on the problems I've had with my gut, or the challenges, shall we say, change the wording. And I think you're right. I think I'm definitely going to go for this one, because it sounds like it is just for me. There are millions of diets out there. The diet book market is worth billions of pounds. And that just shows to me that they're just not working for people. So why not look at something that is just for the individual? And the gut microbiome is just at the forefront of everything at the moment. They're saying that everything comes from the gut, all health comes from the gut. And from the health coaching course that I did last year, it fully focused on that. And I think it's definitely the way forward. And if you can do it in a scientific way, which is what he's doing, then, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Well, the thing I think is cool too is that his app, you get an app with it that tells you exactly what is good for you to eat and what is bad for you to eat. So his
Yeah.
example was everyone was telling him to eat more spinach. And he
Yeah.
kept getting sicker and sicker, and he couldn't figure out why he was getting sicker because he was eating the thing he was supposed to be eating. Well,
Yeah.
the microbiome of his stomach doesn't process spinach properly. So he was actually eating the exact thing that was making him sick.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he was supposed to. So
Yeah.
you get an app that tells you, here are the foods you can eat, and here are the foods you can't eat. Now, the issue comes in that, what is your own personal discipline? People look at my diet and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. How do you do it? And I'm like, my health is more important than me eating a potato.
Yeah.
Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I love potatoes and I cheat a little bit here and there, but like my health and being my best self and feeling good and having a clear mind and being able to get up in the morning without pain is way more important than having French fries.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long ago did you have it done?
So I haven't, I'm such a great proponent for his thing. I haven't actually done his yet. The way that I've found my diet up until this point has been trial and error, unfortunately, because that's just been what's been available to me. So I've been on my current diet for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of me is a little scared because I'm like, what else is it gonna tell me to cut out? I already don't eat corn, rice, or potatoes, or wheat because I was diagnosed as celiac. I don't eat red meat. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink, no alcohol whatsoever. I have 0 sugar in my diet. I don't really eat that much fruit. I had a handful of blueberries this morning. But someone the other day was trying to sell me one of those MLM shake things. And I was like, there's too much sugar in it. I said, if I were to do that, I'd be able to eat 2 meals a week. And she goes, well, they're no different than apples. And I said, honey, I haven't eaten an apple in over 2 years. Like like my diet is already so restrictive that I'm like, what else is it going to tell me to cut out? So.
It might go the other way. You might be surprised. You might say you can eat all these wonderful foods that you haven't been having for years. You never know.
I know. I do need to do it. It's coming. I just haven't done it yet.
I had a look at it on the website. It's not unaccessible for people in terms of the cost involved. I didn't think it was too bad.
I think it's
blood before that have been more.
Yeah, I think it was 400.
Yeah.
400 US. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's bad at all, really. If it's going to give you a plan, I mean, I don't know whether, because your gut microbiome can change, can't it, depending on what you're eating or the stress levels, etc., in your body. So I don't know whether you have an option to keep having it done because
I think they recommend. I think they recommend redoing it on a regular basis. So.
Yeah. So your diet, basically, did you have some issues that you needed to address? And so you just sort of did trial and error, taking things out, putting things back in to see what worked for you?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with celiac about 12 years ago. And so that has been a staple in my life for 12 years and just something I had to learn to live with. About 8 or 9 years ago, my naturopath told me that I was on the verge of having an issue with some candida and some yeast overgrowth in my body. And at the time I was like, nope, not willing to look at that diet. Not like I looked it up online and was like, absolutely not. Yeah. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And so about 3 years ago, I started to kind of like dip my toe in it. About 2 years ago, I started taking it more seriously. But I would do it for a period of time and then totally fall back to my normal or my old ways of eating. And then it was like I was yo-yoing back and forth. And so now for the past year, I've been very, very, very consistently on, it's pretty close to a paleo diet. I just don't eat red meat. So lots of poultry. I love turkey burgers. I eat a lot of eggs. I eat a lot of avocados, coconut oil, super, super, super high fat, which is so funny. Speaking of the politically motivated food pyramid, we were told to cut out fat. I eat so much fat in my diet and I'm actually losing weight. I've cut out sugar completely, minus like I said, I do a little bit of natural sugar, blueberries, and there are some bananas in some of the shakes I get. But I'm losing weight eating a high fat diet, and my body feels great. I have energy. I'm able to wake up in the morning. I don't have the fog. When I was eating wheat, I basically slept through all of college. Like I would get a full night's sleep, wake up the next morning, carb load, because as a college student, what do you eat?
Yeah.
Bread, waffles, cereal, etc.
Things, yeah.
Would go to class and just pass out. And I couldn't figure out why I was so tired all the time. But my body would just shut down. It was the when I finally started deciding to look into it, my boss, when I first started as a counselor, was very into natural stuff and holistic, homeopathic, all those things. And I passed out at my desk one day. And she was like, you might want to have that looked at. Like, you might want to explore and investigate, like, what's going on. And she did a few tests on me. She did a pulse test and some muscle testing on me. And she's like, I think you have a food allergy, and like, you should really look into that. And so that's when I went and started. I went to an acupuncturist and some other things. And within 2 minutes, the acupuncturist was like, oh, you totally have a food allergy.
Yeah, yeah. I think the celiac thing is incredible in that it can manifest itself in all sorts of different symptoms that don't necessarily correlate. And I think it's not always the first thing that the medics think to test for, because the symptoms can be sort of gynecological, they can be headaches, they can be skin eruptions. So they don't put it together very quickly, do they?
I had been going to the doctor since I was in college. So I probably started going to the doctor in 2002, and I didn't get diagnosed until 2006. And the doctors in 2002 were like, oh yeah, you have a massive histamine reaction happening in your body. It's this massive allergic reaction. Here, take these pills. And at like 20 or 18 or 19 or however old I was, I didn't think to ask like, well, what's causing the allergic reaction?
Yeah.
Like, what am I allergic to that's causing this histamine thing to happen in my body? And they gave me these pills, which oddly enough, the side effect was drowsiness. And then they told me I needed to up my fiber, which oddly enough made me consume more wheat.
Yeah.
And like, it was just, they barely did any testing. That was around when I lost my faith in the medical system and started really seeing it for what it was.
Yeah, yeah. I can completely understand now that you found foods that work for you and that you're going to stick to them, because you don't want all that going on, do you? I mean, I've had gut issues for most of my life and ended up with adrenal fatigue, and I'm sure it was a sort of build up over a long period of time. So I had to do the Candida diet and all the rest of it, and it's hell on earth actually. The Candida diet has to be the worst one, doesn't it? I think when you find what suits you, and it is very much one size fits one, you're like, I am so going to stick to this.
Yeah, I found ways of making it work for me. It's not obviously, how I used to eat, but also as I evolve into, better and better versions of myself, it's just what kind of goes along with it for me. I could still eat all of the things that I used to eat, and that's not who I am anymore. So I've found, little recipes here and there. There's so many good paleo resources online nowadays. I made myself the best birthday cake this year, and I think it was made out of like hazelnut flour, completely paleo, no sugar, although I did do like a cream cheese frosting on top, which was delicious.
Sounds fantastic. So is there one food that you can't live without? Have you got a favorite food?
I have fallen in love with avocados. Part of it probably was living in California. The avocados there are unbelievable. Being in Minnesota now, I'm like, oh, the avocado situation here is so hard. I do love avocados, but my morning cup of tea as well is like a non-negotiable. I travel with my tea, because I just refuse to mess around with what the availability is going to be. Like, I have a specific kind that I drink, and I'm very particular about my food. And so.
What kind of tea do you drink? Is it herbal? Or?
No, it's full of caffeine.
In fact, like we call it builder's tea.
Yes. In fact, I get the high calf blend. So mine has like extra caffeine in it. In fact, it has my tea has more caffeine than coffee does.
Right.
But it's a brand here in the States called the Republic of Tea.
Okay.
And it's delicious. I get their toasted coconut one, and it's just like so good.
Oh, wow. Toasted coconut tea. That sounds phenomenal.
Well, when I had to go off of coffee 2 years ago, because I was working with a nutritionist, and she basically said, you go off coffee or you cannot become a client of mine. And I was like, what am I going to do? At the time I was having like 2 macchiatos a day. And after living in Italy, I love coffee, love it.
Yeah.
And she was like, you go off coffee or you're not a client of mine. You got to figure it out some other way. And
wow.
I know. I luckily was at the home of this woman. She was the founder of, I want to say it was True Religion Jeans or 7 Jeans or something like that. And she was like, honey, come in my kitchen with me. Let me tell you all the things. And she was like, I'm going to give you 7 packets of tea, and you take these home and you take a photo of the bag and you go order yourself some. And these 7 packets should get you through until your shipment comes. And like, now I have it on auto order. It just shows up at my door every 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. So you're totally sorted with your tea.
Oh yeah, I'm serious about my tea.
And in terms of exercise, I know, do you do yoga in the morning as part of your inner practice? And I know the other day when we spoke, you were out for a walk. So do you run or just walk, or what else do you do?
I've never run. My body doesn't agree with it. And I don't know if it's just that I haven't tried it long enough, but I can't breathe when I run. So I don't run. But I do try to walk. When I was in LA, I was walking about 2 miles a day. I would go to the lake first thing in the morning. Here it's a little different, especially when the snow flies in like a few months, which I don't really know what I'm going to do. But right behind me, I don't have it out, but this right here is a yoga hammock.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So I do suspended yoga with ab work, and then I have some hand weights that I use. My boyfriend is trying really hard to get me to go to the gym with him. So we'll see how that goes this winter. I might have to if I'm cooped up in my house too much. But again, super intuitive of like, what does my body need? Do I need to go for a 2-mile walk today? Do I need to move my body? Do I just need to hang upside down for 15 minutes? What is it that my body's craving in this moment? But I do try to go. When I was in Denver, we took a hike. We're going to Los Angeles in a week, and we'll be, hiking a lot there. I specifically booked our hotels along the road trip path to have nice gyms in them. So we'll be, lots of movement, and it's important. I am very sedentary. This is sitting at my desk. I sit here a lot doing trainings, recording meditations, doing all the marketing and the financials and everything for my business. It's really important that I prioritize my body as well.
Yeah. So you get the best of both worlds. A few years ago, when I was doing a course online with some American guys, they talked about business being easy, lucrative, and fun. And I know I mentioned to you before that you can do your business from anywhere in the world. So I'm guessing that you've made it to be easy, lucrative, and fun. And how did you go about doing that? Because you basically just need a phone. You can, is that right?
Pretty much, like either a phone or my laptop. I am what they call a Zennial, so I'm between a millennial and a Gen Xer. And so I'm still very like a little old school. Like I prefer paperbacks to Kindles and like that kind of stuff. So I prefer to have my laptop. I don't like texting. I don't like all of that stuff. I can do work on my phone, but I really prefer not to. Basically my goal wasn't to build a business that was easy, lucrative, and fun. I think that was a byproduct of me really tapping into what is my passion? What am I here for? What am I good at? How do I serve the world? And that was always more of my focus. And when I'm doing those things, I have a ton of fun. I make a ton of money. And it usually flows pretty openly when I'm in that mode. When I'm pushing and when I'm trying and when I'm figuring it out and all of those things, those are signs for me that I'm disconnected from the flow. And when I'm disconnected, things are hard and they usually suck. And I'm usually not making money in those times. And so for me, the priority Like, I feel like those were byproducts rather than the goal.
Yeah. So when you're in alignment, everything falls into place, basically. Yeah.
And that's not to say that there aren't still bumps in the road, because there are.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been less about reacting to circumstances and more about choosing to respond in certain ways, and like how really asking myself, how am I going to show up if the things around me aren't looking like I want them to? Am I going to show up in flow and in my power and really stand for my truth? Or am I going to just respond to this thing and fight it and push against it and all of those things? For example, I just moved out of my place in LA, and I got my security deposit back, and they charged me $100 for all this cleaning stuff. And I was like, that place was spotless. We even mopped our way out of it before they came to do the inspection, so that there were 0 footprints on the ground. Like, that place was spotless. I spent hours with one of those magic erasers going at the walls to make sure that there was nothing. And they charged me $100. And I was like, well, that's weird. And instead of getting angry or, calling them up and yelling at them, I just emailed them and said, hey, here's a photo of, the deposit thing that you just sent me. Here's a photo of the checkout sheet that you sent me. You said that the oven, you charged me this much for cleaning the oven, whereas this sheet says it's clean. You charged me this much for cleaning the cabinets, whereas this sheet says it's clean. Like, here's the proof.
Yeah.
I would like to know what the resolution to this is going to be, because the place was cleaner than I got it.
Yeah.
And so instead of fighting and yelling and pushing, which my old self would have done, of like, it needs to be right and you need to fix this and blah, 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 I was just like, here's this and here's this. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. That's incredible. So it sounds like you've got stress nailed.
I don't know about that. I still have my moments. I've been traveling a lot. In fact, I will, by the end of the year, have taken at least 13 trips this year, including 3 cross-country road trips, each of which included like 9 or 10 states.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get real stressed and real disconnected when I moved. I think while I was in Denver this last week, I meditated maybe 2 or 3 times. Like, I just, it's hard for me to maintain that when I'm like uprooted from my home. So it's a practice.
That sounds quite challenging. And how do you get your bookings? Do you have an agent who sort of finds the bookings for you, or do you do it all yourself?
No, my assistant earlier this year was pitching me for a lot of women's expos. I've had a lot of people reach out. But honestly, most of my things that are pitched, either I or one of my assistants does. So I usually book, I think I have about 3 podcast interviews this week. Just spoke at that women's expo. I have a speaking engagement tonight. I have another one in October. I have a back-to-back Milwaukee and Florida one in November. I have another one in December. And these are just all things that some of them have been pitched. Some of them have just come to me and asked.
Yeah. And have you ever been to the UK to do one?
No, the last time I was in England I was in my master's program. No, was I in my master's? I might have been in my undergrad. It was probably in 2004 that I was in England, and I was definitely 21 years old. Actually, I might have still been 20 at that point. I don't remember exactly what time of the year we went. I loved it. I would love to come back, but just hasn't. I've been doing other travels.
Yeah.
2004. So
I'm sure there's plenty of people here who would love to hear you.
I mean, if I booked a speaking gig in England, I would be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can sort something out. So let's just do one more question, if that's okay with you, because I know you've got plans for the rest of the day. If you could give somebody a couple of tips for, whatever tips you want to do, really, whether it's healthy living, whether it's managing stress, whether it's, that is healthy living, but you know what I mean? Anything that you sort of feel like you're on top of and you've mastered, that you could share with somebody else that they could take away from today?
I think the biggest thing that's really helped me trust my vision over my eyesight, like we talked about earlier, is meditation and really building that muscle. I talk to so many people that are like, oh, well, I just can't meditate. You can meditate. Most people go into meditation with expectations of how it's supposed to look or what they're supposed to do. Oh, well, I have to sit in the lotus position with my eyes closed in complete silence and empty all my thoughts for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
If that works for you, do it. Again, meditation is a one size fits one practice. The way I meditate is not how I'm going to recommend you meditate. And the thing that I recommend for everyone is find what works for you. I started with guided meditations because I couldn't sit in silence, and hearing someone else's voice and them telling me and showing me what to look at within myself helped me get where I am today. Now that was 10 years ago. So today I am able to just put on some solfeggio tones and just sit in silence. There are moments when, I have 5 minutes and I just meditate quick just to like have that connection. So find what works for you and make it a priority, because it's not like this work that I do in the world is not something that just happens. I'm not just successful because, I've come into a few lucky breaks. This is a result of me showing up in my life in a really powerful way pretty much every day, even on weekends. I do my daily practice 7 days a week as much as I can. I still, Saturdays and Sundays, get up at 6 a.m. because the cats don't know what day it is and they still want to be fed at 6 a.m. So, I really get familiar with that inner landscape. It will give you more knowledge, more expertise, and really guide you to the success that you want for your life, the happiness, the joy, the ease, the flow, whatever that is. It's all going to be found inside of you. And that's it.
Thank you so much. That seems to be a recurring theme with all the people that I've talked to, in that meditation has become a big part of their lives. And I'm kind of at the guided stage at the moment. I do find that the silence, it doesn't work for me. But the guided, I love it. And I'm getting there with it. And I would agree, it definitely changes your perspective. It brings you back to your center. And for me, one of the best ways to meditate is actually to go and stand on a sandy beach and just let my feet sink into the sand, and just stand really still and listen to the waves, that repetitiveness of the waves coming in. I love that.
Yeah, grounding is an incredible practice, simply just putting your feet on the earth.
Yeah,
it's like putting two wires together. It's like connecting a circuit, and just, oh my gosh, there's been scientific studies done now about grounding and how powerful it is, and what the impact it has on our bodies and our stress signals and all of that stuff.
There has. Yeah, sometimes I'll just go and stand outside if I'm feeling stressed and just stand on the grass, and it does the same. It's just beautiful. It's really beautiful. Yep. Well, it's been absolutely fabulous to talk to you. We managed it at last. And you take care. Have a great gig tonight.
Thank you.
I'll chat to you again soon, hopefully.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Bri. Take care.